Grounded 2 improves this foundation of its predecessor. Where the first game confined itself to a single backyard, its sequel relocates the adventure to Brook Hollow Park, a new setting that immediately signals greater ambition. A park is, by definition, more expansive, more varied, and more socially layered than a simple backyard. Early access will already provide an area comparable to the fully released first game, but the developers have confirmed that the world will eventually grow to nearly 3 times that size. That scope alone suggests a project that wants to be both a sequel and a reimagining, positioning itself as a definitive version of the grounded experience. One of the first things that strikes players is the scale of the park and the way Obsidian has teased landmarks. A statue looms large in promotional shots, its presence diminished when viewed from above but colossal when seen from the perspective of a child barely an inch tall. Around it are whimsical and faintly menacing fixtures, a hot dog stand offering absurdly cheap snacks, a tipped-over ice cream cart that transforms into a frozen cavern, and picnic tables draped in gingham cloth. Each structure serves as more than scenery. They are navigational beacons, storytelling devices, and environmental puzzles waiting to be unlocked. Where the first game's backyard occasionally risked feeling like a patchwork of zones, Grounded 2 appears designed from the outset with verticality, layered traversal, and discovery in mind. The biological inhabitants of Brook Hollow Park are, of course, the main attraction. Familiar insects return, ants, spiders, and beetles, but they are joined by a menagerie of new creatures. Butterflies flutter through the skies, not merely decorative, but imbued with elemental effects, such as cold debuffs tied to the fresh element. Scorpions skitter across sandy terrain, their presence a terrifying escalation of threat. Caterpillars, cockroaches, and even rats, or their skeletal remains, hint at an ecosystem that is less a playground and more a war zone of survival. The mention of tarantulas implied through mutation unlocks foreshadows boss encounters of daunting scale. Obsidian has carefully selected creatures that are not only iconic but also thematically charged, animals that can inspire wonder or revulsion at a glance, tapping into primal human fears while reinforcing the constant reminder of the player's vulnerability. Yet the most radical addition to Grounded 2 is not its monsters but its buggies, the insect companions that can be tamed, mounted, and employed as functional allies. This system reframes traversal, combat, and even resource gathering. Where the first game demanded laborious climbing and repeated trips for supplies, buggies introduce convenience without trivializing survival. A red ant soldier becomes a builder's best friend, carrying planks and even assisting in actual construction. Orb weaver spiders, unlocked later, excel in combat and can traverse special web bridges inaccessible by other means. The system is not just cosmetic, it is transformative. Players can command their companions to vacuum up scattered resources, carry loads, block enemy attacks, and even perfect block on their behalf. This synergy suggests that Grounded 2 is less about micromanaging frustrations and more about amplifying player creativity. The process of obtaining these buggies appears to involve stealing eggs from insect colonies and nurturing them at a base, which adds risk and investment to what could otherwise be a simple mechanic. Combat itself has evolved significantly. Enemy insects can now block attacks, forcing players to adapt tactics and read patterns instead of relying on brute force. A dodge mechanic introduces new mobility, allowing for quicker, more reactive engagements. These tweaks bring combat closer to action RPG sensibilities, moving away from the clunky exchanges that sometimes marred the first game. Layered on top of this is a new archetype system. While Obsidian avoids rigid classes, armor sets and weapons clearly encourage specializations. The warrior archetype focuses on melee resilience and raw power, rangers excel with bows, mages wield candy staves imbued with elemental magic, and rogues use dual daggers for venom-laced burst damage. The beauty of this system lies in its flexibility. Players are not locked into choices, but the game gently nudges them toward playstyles that feel distinct and rewarding. Supporting these archetypes are mutations, returning from the first game but expanded in both number and function. These passive bonuses are earned through exploration and mastery, shooting enough arrows, landing perfect blocks, or surviving environmental hazards. The system creates a sense of organic progression, tying power not just to grinding but to lived experience within the park. It ensures that even the most mundane activities carry potential rewards, weaving progression seamlessly into survival. Quality of life improvements abound. The Omni tool replaces the cumbersome array of separate tools, consolidating chopping, digging, and busting into one device. This frees inventory space and eliminates friction, a small change with enormous impact on moment-to-moment play. Difficulty settings are available from the outset, accommodating players who want either punishing survival with friendly fire enabled or a relaxed creative mode free of combat. This inclusivity underscores the developer's intent. Grounded 2 should welcome both returning veterans and brand new players without demanding prior knowledge of the series. Atmosphere is another arena where the sequel appears to excel. The park is not just bigger but more varied, with biomes that communicate tone as much as gameplay. A trash can belches toxic fumes, serving as both an environmental hazard and a narrative symbol of decay. A pit of rat skeletons borders on horror, its grotesque imagery grounding the whimsy of ice cream tunnels and picnic tables with unsettling reminders of mortality. Such contrasts suggest that Obsidian intends to sharpen the tonal edge of Grounded 2, creating a world that is whimsical without being toothless, playful but punctuated by real menace. Taken together, these systems and design choices speak to a sequel determined to refine every part of its predecessor. Where Grounded sometimes felt like a proof of concept, Grounded 2 aims to be a fully realized survival RPG hybrid, as focused on narrative and exploration as it is on mechanics. Its early access phase promises only the first act of the story, yet even this truncated portion is as large as the completed map of the original. That scale, paired with systemic innovations like insect mounts, class archetypes, and streamlined tools, indicates a game that is not content to simply repeat what worked before. The question, of course, is whether this ambition can be sustained. Early access games risk overpromising, and Obsidian must ensure that additions to buggies, mutations, and story are delivered with consistent quality. Yet the evidence so far is encouraging. The sequel's systems are not gimmicks, but thoughtful responses to the first game's weaknesses. They demonstrate an understanding of why people loved Grounded, its sense of wonder, its community of cooperation, its blend of fear and humor, and how those values can be scaled into something larger. In the end, Grounded 2 feels like a culmination of everything the original aspired to be. It is bigger, stranger, and more mechanically ambitious, but also more cohesive. The park setting is a brilliant canvas for scale and storytelling. The insect companions add depth to survival, and the combat refinements promise encounters that are as tactical as they are tense. Perhaps most importantly, the game never loses sight of its core fantasy, the joy and terror of being small in a world that suddenly feels unimaginably large. If Obsidian delivers on its promises through early access and beyond, Grounded 2 could stand as not only a great sequel, but a defining survival experience of its generation.